ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the next event in the Chicago Booth Women's Network 2021 Leadership Summit Series. This is a holistic approach to your career. My name is Nima Parikh, class of 98, currently serving as president of CBWN, and I am delighted to be your host. As many of you may know, CBWN hosts events around the world with the vision of empowering women for professional success. COVID has been a bit challenging time for women and for CBWN to bring you these events, but we have pivoted quickly and so have many women. So to bring you our 2021 Leadership Summit series of action-oriented events to empower women to lead in a time of COVID rather than allowing COVID to lead us. So towards that goal, we bring you fellow alum Sue Klaus for a holistic approach to your career. But before we begin, I want you all to know that who you are and what you share is both valued and respected. We all here need to have this trust and confidence for a free exchange of thoughts, ideas, and feelings, embracing perspectives and views different than our own, and only then can we truly empower one another. So without further ado, allow me to introduce our fellow alum, Sue Klaus, class of 08. She's the owner and founder of Career Success Pathways. Her bio was on the registration page, but I know Sue will leverage her background and experience to tell her story. So with that, Sue, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Nima. I want to welcome everybody to the CBWN Leadership Series, and I'd like to thank both the board for asking me to participate in the series and to thank everybody for attending. The agenda and goals today are here on this first slide. And if you haven't printed out the assessment wheel yet, please go ahead and do so, as Nima asked. We'll be getting there in about 10 minutes, so you have a few minutes to get to that. I hope you leave here today with a stronger sense of self and an understanding of where you stand in all aspects of your life, the knowledge to use your skills no matter where your life points you, and knowing that the direction you are pointing in is actually the one where you want to go. Thanks, Nima, for reviewing my bio. I'm going to add just a few more details about my background and company overview to give you a bit of color as to where I guide my clients and why, and the way I do it. So I have my undergrad from the University of Illinois Chicago, and I graduated from there with a double major in finance and accounting and went on to begin a life in finance and accounting. And while I was doing that, I met and married a man who ran a bar, and I became his backup bartender for when the employees didn't show up. So I had like this great data side to me, and then I had this fun-loving free side to my life. And through that, I wasn't sure I wanted to spend the rest of my life sitting behind a desk crunching numbers. And when I did the executive MBA program at the University of Chicago, I took the ethics class at the end of that. And after that, I knew I was in the wrong profession. I knew I needed to be with people. I knew I needed to be out from behind that desk crunching numbers. I knew I wanted to get into HR. And so I sat for the PHR. And when I sat for the PHR, the company I was working for at the time, it was a smaller company, and the gentleman who was doing the HR stuff said, "You get your PHR and I will hand you all the HR stuff." So the day after I got my PHR certification, he literally came over to me with a stack of HR files and said, "You are now the director of HR and accounting." And I was like, "Oh, great," but I wasn't quite sure what that meant. And so I ended up going into that and becoming from that company, I left there and became the director of HR and ran the HR departments for two separate organizations. I went into HR and realized pretty soon that HR is considered a necessary evil in a lot of companies, that a lot of companies will, bring on an HR director, want them to be very strategic, but not necessarily give you the resources to be strategic. So I spent a lot of time just putting out fires all day long. After leaving or working for my next badly managed company, I left and I went to work for a leadership development company. So now I'm into my third transition of my career. I'm now doing sales and business development, started out accounting and finance, went into HR, now doing sales and development. What I did realize though, which took me a little bit of time, was that having that finance and accounting background really was a good foundation for any career that I was going to choose. And that really did help me a lot. And then having the Booth degree really was a very good thing to have as well. You know, there was I worked for the leadership development company for about 3 years, and then decided that I was going to open my own company doing career advancement for individuals. And so what I did was, during that time, I really did look at my work-life balance. You know, I was able to move to Colorado from Chicago. I was able to work a lot less and help, you know, really watch my daughter grow. And I'll get into having her in just a minute. So for me, I wasn't working a ton, but I was making enough money to pay my bills. And I think what happened was, I realized when I was really focused on the financial side of my life, I was really lacking, and I was bankrupt in the spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional pieces. And for me, I tried to flip-flop that, right? And so I tried to really start focusing on the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And I found that when I did that, the finance came. You know, I was able to pay my bills. I was able to have a work-life balance. At one point, you know, my mom said, "What are you doing with this Booth degree you paid for?" And, you know, and for a while that really did weigh on me. And so one day I was, you know, in a meditation, and I just heard this voice say, "You're being a mom, just be a mom," you know, and at that time my daughter needed me. And so it's those things, like that holistic approach to, you know, knowing where I was on my career path, that really guided me to creating some of the things I'm going to share with you today that I share with clients. So, and at the risk of assuming anything, because I don't like to assume anything, I am going to assume that everybody kind of has that solid understanding of where you stand from a professional skill set as we go in today, and the professional skills you bring to a role. So I'm going to concentrate on the other aspects of your life that you bring into your career. So after I married and the barman, you know, we had a daughter, and it soon became apparent that he had quite a problem with alcohol. And I didn't know what alcoholism looked like at the time, but I did know I didn't want to live with it. And I didn't want to raise my daughter in it, because my dad was an alcoholic and I was raised that way. And so I soon began a life of being a single mom. And to the point where I just had my daughter almost all the time. So that really, you know, made a big difference in my life. And she actually even traveled to Singapore and London as a honorary Boothie, although we weren't called Boothies yet. And through, you know, through the experience of the alcoholism and things like that, I also found Al-Anon, which is a 12-step recovery program. And it helped me to set boundaries and learn about self-care. Both were greatly lacking in my life at that time. And then thankfully today, you know, my daughter's now 20, and thankfully I stay in that program because she has found herself struggling with her adulthood, and she tends to self-medicate, coming from Colorado. And, you know, now has also been diagnosed with a mental health issue. So, you know, it's just all that stuff that I think people really bring to their worlds. Because it's just part of life. You can't leave it sitting at your office door. You really do have to look at all of it. So that adds some color to who I am and why I work with clients the way I work with them. So what I wanted to do next is talk about, you know, a stronger sense of self. And, you know, your resume will talk about your professional skills and affiliations, but there's so many other aspects that you bring to your role. And part of that is the unique qualities that only you can bring to the roles. So what I want to do is just a quick 3-minute exercise where I'd like you to write down 5 unique qualities that you bring to every situation. From my perspective, I can give you what I would write down. I am not only one of 7 children, but we were all girls. And I am also the oldest and the middle child. And I'll explain that if you need me to, but I'll let you ponder on that for just a minute. Things that brings are, compromise, leadership, delegation, having that female perspective. I've changed careers or pivoted careers 3 times over the course of the last decade. So for me, that, looks at resilience and ambition. I have my experience in my 12-step program, which has taught me boundaries, detachment, self-care, awareness, unconditional love, things that I wasn't taught when I was growing up, but it was taught to me through that work. Our booth degrees, like in this setting, we all have that, right? But in another setting, that may be very unique to us. And I think that, alone shows so much. It shows networking and goal setting, working with others, being able to work independently. Our data, our data analysis is huge through that. So I'm going to go ahead and give you just a quick 3 minutes to write down things that are unique to you. And if you'd like to share them in the chat, please do so. And if people finish early, just go ahead and raise your hand in your reactions and we can move on to.
I see that we have a couple of raised hands, but we'll wait. We still have about another minute, about 50 seconds.
Got moved 30 times growing up. That's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. It's things that you can bring to situations that make you unique. That other people wouldn't have that perspective.
I used to say moved around a lot growing up. I am no
Thanks
one
for
who's
sharing
gonna
that,
say that.
So as people finish up, I also wanted to briefly talk about a SWOT analysis. I'm not going to go into detail about it today, but don't underestimate the value of a good SWOT analysis, like where you can actually write down your strengths and your weaknesses, the good and the not so good. You can shine up on the good and you can work on the not so good. And what I like to do with this type of analysis is take it to people that are close to you, and after you're done working on it, and you'd be amazed at some of the feedback that you get and how great that is and what's produced by other people's perspectives.
Okay, that's 3 minutes.
Okay, awesome. Hopefully you guys got something out of that exercise, and I'll actually be circling back to that. We did not do the poll. Oh,
We did not do the poll yet, correct?
okay.
Would you like to do that now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. It is up.
Okay. So if people can go in and just in which areas of these life, or in which of these areas of life do you feel you struggle with the most? And you can select more than one.
Looks like we've got about a third of you answering so far, so we'll leave it open for another maybe 30 seconds as people vote. Okay, maybe 10 more seconds. All right, and going to end now.
Great, I love it. I love that everyone has a strong family support system.
And Kin Chan has also shared some of her strengths and unique qualities she brings to every situation in the chat.
Okay, awesome. Broad and deep understanding my sector. Story of self, I love that. Yeah, those are awesome. Anything you can bring to a situation that makes you unique, you know, you have to use that as a strength. And so in our poll, and it's up on the screen still, I think, the mental and intellectual piece was one of the higher ones, along with vocational. So that brings us, I'm going to switch our focus into the assessment wheel. So this is the document I asked everybody to print out. And if you are able to, if you were able to print it out, great. And if you weren't able to, you can just go ahead and make a circle on the piece of paper that you have in front of you. Cut it in half both ways, and then cut those in half again. So you have 8 sections. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through how we're going to put the markings on this. And so using this assessment wheel, we can look at our life as divided into roles. And one of the things that most of what we do falls into certain categories. At a minimum, there's 4 life accounts that we look at, and that's mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. But I like to break it down a little bit further so we can allow a little bit more personal insight. So what we're going to do is start in the upper right-hand side under the mental and intellectual. And what I'd like you to do is just place a line on the assessment wheel where you feel that you fall within this category on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is poor and 10 is ideal. How are you capitalizing on opportunities for continued learning and education? And so in that section, just on that wheel, where would you put your capitalization of opportunities for continued learning and education? And there is no right or wrong answer.
And so just to clarify,
false.
Is the 0 in the center and the 10 is all the way on the outside?
Yes. And then we'll move on to the physical, health, and recreational. How do you rate your dietary, sleep, exercise, healthy stress levels, and recreational activity habits? And again, 0 on the middle, 10 on the outside, 0 is poor, 10 is ideal. Health and recreational, how do you rate your dietary, sleep, exercise, healthy stress levels, and recreational activity habits? On the financial section, how are your relationships? Oh, I'm sorry. What is your relationship with money? Do you maintain a budget and appropriate bank account balances and retirement projections? So in the financial section, what is your relationship with money? Do you maintain a budget and appropriate bank account balances and retirement projections? In the family section, how are your relationships with family and loved ones? And given the poll we just took, I would think that most people are pretty high on this. So under family, how are your relationships with family and loved ones? Moving on to the other side of the wheel, social and community. How do you rank your relationships with friends and your social network? What about your involvement in community service? So 0 being poor, 10 being ideal in your life. How do you rank your relationships with friends and your social network? And what about your involvement in community service? In the vocational section, rate your work or business life. The middle being poor, the outside being 10, ideal. Rate your work or business life. In the spiritual section, how would you rate your religious or spiritual beliefs and practices? From 0, poor, to 10, ideal. And the last section is self-love. When you look in a full-length mirror and tell yourself, I love you, meaning all of you, how do you rank your belief in that statement? 0 being poor, 10, the outer edge being ideal. Once again, self-love, the question is, when you look in a full-length mirror and tell yourself, I love you, meaning all of you, how do you rank your belief in that statement? And so hopefully everybody has got all that information. Is there anybody who needs anything repeated? And Nima, I'm having a hard time seeing the chat.
Oh, no, so far, no. But
Okay.
let us know when you want to show the results of the poll
Okay.
now that you've walked through each of these.
Okay, and I just, so what your wheel should look like, I want you to go through and just make connecting lines to all those other lines. And your wheel should look like this, although I had to do this on the PDF, and my hand-eye coordination with the ink splatter makes it look like a kindergartner did it. So your wheel should look like this. And the purpose of this activity is to give you an idea of the balance in your personal life. The wheel should generally be rounded and trending towards the outer edges. And the areas that are closer to the middle are those that you would concentrate on to make your life more balanced. What I like to do is with my clients, I like to have them do this at the beginning of our working together, and then I'll follow up with them 6 months later after we're done working together and see how this has changed. See where they've looked at these types of things and how, moving along in their career has helped them, by also taking a look at their life assessment accounts, where is that balanced out for them? And then if you want to put up the results again, we can see kind of where everyone stands personally and then where we stand as a group and see how people look between the two. So it seems a lot of people, would have the closer to the middle on the mental and intellectual and then on the vocational, somewhere around midline or lower from the outer edge on the physical piece. Hopefully everyone's trending high on the family from what the poll results were. It sounds like people have good family relationships. Okay, so we're going to move on. The other thing I like to work with my clients on is transitional skills. Obviously, I have transitioned careers 3 different times, probably going on 4. I'd like to do another career transition, you know, for my retirement and what I want to, how the way I want to live in my lifestyle. I'd love to own a resort and run that so I can live the lifestyle on, you know, doing hunting, fishing, living in an open space, and then have people pay me to do it, you know, so they come and rent my land from me. But that's a little bit farther down the line from me. But so, you know, skills that can be transferred from role to role, company to company, industry to industry. Those are the transitional skills that you want to highlight on your resume, especially if you're looking to do a career switch or get a role that you maybe weren't exactly in before. A lot of these are your soft skills. You know, your technical skills, a lot of those are teachable. The soft skills, the things like being a leader, you know, being able to manage people, those types of things are the ones that companies love to get people to come into their company with. So those are the things that I try to highlight on people's resumes when I work with them. And also, you know, you definitely want to highlight results and accomplishments versus duties and responsibility in your career marketing materials. And that, you know, as you look at what we've done so far, so those unique characteristics and traits that you bring to companies, your life assessment categories, your transitional skills that we're talking about now, all those things, the SWOT assessment that we talked about. I think all of those things are, you know, items that you can bring into your marketing materials that, sorry, I just admitted somebody in the waiting room made me lose my train of thought. So all those things are items that you can bring into your marketing materials for your career advancement that make you unique, you know, and make you somebody that companies want to hire. So there's one other exercise I would like to walk us through, and this I call the bucket list exercise. And this is looking at, you know, are you even heading down the path that you'd like to be on? And so this was something that we asked you to do as a pre-activity exercise, but I'm going to go ahead and give another 3 minutes right now in case people didn't get to it. So on this list of items, I just want you to number it from 1 to 16, and then using these prompts, make a list of items that you would love to do before you die. You know, what do you want to do? Or use what would you like to have? Who do you want to be? What do you want to see? What do you want to give? Who would you like to help? And what do you want to know? Whom do you want to know? So anything that you would put on a bucket list, I'd like you to go ahead and take 3 minutes right now to do that.
And I do see a few hands raised. So if you have a question, just put it into the chat. And if you have an issue with anything, please also put that into the chat and I can help you.
And as people finish their lists, if you want to raise your hand so we can move on a little bit early if people are done.
We'll give everyone another 2 minutes.
And if you can't think of all 16, that's fine. This exercise works whether or not you have everything completed.
One more minute and we'll look for some more hands to be raised. Okay, Sue, we're coming up on 3 minutes. I only see a couple of hands raised. So if you,
Okay. Like I said, this exercise will work whether or not you have everything completed. So here's the next piece. Take that list, and I want you to do a quick Sweet 16 bracket. So you're going to compare item number 1 to item number 16 on your list, and you're going to ask the question, you know, which of these items do I want? What is more important to me out of these items? Number 1 or number 16? And bear in mind that when you're making this condensation of this list, when you're condensing this list down, it doesn't mean you're negating the other thing. You're just saying it's not as important to you right now, and it's not where you're going to spend your focus. So out of numbers 1 and 16, you'll want to ask yourself, you know, which of these is more important to me? And then you'll take numbers 2 and number 15, and you'll put it in, you know, advance the one that's more important to you. We'll look at 3 and 14 and advance the one that's more important to you. And do that again for 4 and 13. And if your answer was blank, that one automatically gets knocked out, and you just advance the one that is still there. So hopefully everyone got at least 8. So then we'll look at numbers 5 and 12 and advance the ones that are out of 5 and 12, advance the one that's more important to you. Looking at items 6 and 11, go ahead and advance the one that's more important to you. On items 7 and 10, you can look at the one that's more important to you. And between items 8 and 9, advance the one that's more important to you. Then you'll take your answers from 1 and 16, 2 and 15, and you'll advance that one that's more important to you out of those 4. And then out of items 3, 4, 13, and 14, whichever one you pick to advance, you'll advance the one out of those 2 that's more important. And again, just remembering that if you're having a hard time knocking them down, just remember that you're not negating the other one. You're just trying to put a focus on where you want to put your effort right now. Out of 5 and 12, 6 and 11, the 2 that you came out of with that, go ahead and advance one of those. And then from 7 and 10, 8 and 9, whichever 2 came out of those, go ahead and advance one of those. And now you're down to 4 answers. Go ahead and take those 4 answers and bring them down to 2. And then out of those 2, you should end up with 1 that is the most important to you right now. And if you truly can't decide between these two answers, then I would just encourage you to do the next part of the exercise for both of them. And it may help clarify which one is really where your focus should lie right now. Is there anybody who's not ready to move forward? You can just raise
I
your
don't
hand.
see anyone, and I don't see anyone in the chat saying we need more time.
Okay, perfect. So the next piece is why. Let's ask the why. Let's dig deep on this. So why is this important to you? And then when you answer that question, you want to ask it again. Why is that answer important to you? And you want to do that 5 times. You want to just keep digging down as to why this bucket list item is so important to you. And as you do that, you're gonna, this is the making of your life's purpose statement, which answers the question, what am I here to do anyhow? Like why are we here right now? And I think what this does is it just helps create that focus as to where you want to move forward and why. And I won't spend a lot of time on this session having people go into the details of this, but I definitely think it's something you can spend a few minutes afterwards working on and figuring out that piece of it. So the last thing I want to touch on before I want to leave a few minutes for questions is just other aspects of your career that you should be thinking about. And one big thing is networking. And obviously, being a Booth alum, we all have been introduced and really pounded into us the value of networking, for lack of a better term. So use your network. It's true. It's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. And we know a lot of people. We know a lot of people globally. So there's no reason to not reach out and use the network of Booth. It's a phenomenal resource that we all have. I also want to talk about mental health, and this was one of the items that scored high on that poll we did. So just the remembrance of self-care. It's something I didn't grow up knowing a lot about. It was, I was a people pleaser. I was one of a lot of kids. The answer to my little trivia question was I came from my mom was married twice. So I was my mom's middle, but my dad's oldest. So I had 3 older half sisters that, when I was at my mom's, I was the middle kid, but when I was at my dad, I was the oldest. So I, developed both the oldest child and the middle child syndromes, all of them probably, so that self-care and that just getting to know yourself. And what I've learned as an adult, that the value of meditation is big for me. Making sure I have breaks and white space on my calendar, that I'm physically taking care of myself so I can work out, things like that. The other thing that's always been a huge reminder, a huge thing that I have to remind myself of, the only true comparison in my life is me before to me now, right? So I don't want to compare myself to other people, and it's not fair for you to compare yourself to other people, what's happening in their lives. I heard somebody say, it's very audacious of us to think that we know how the whole world should be working, right? So that it really is like, staying inside that hula hoop that you have. Not to say that you don't need to make the next right step and do the things that you need to do to make plans. It's just, make sure you're right sizing yourself and keeping it all in perspective. I've learned to live in faith and not fear, especially in the last year. I think a lot of people could fall very easily into that fear category. And, what's kept me going is faith. And then watching for synchronicities. I think from a mental health aspect, I love to watch synchronicities. I actually was on the phone with a client yesterday, and he had made a statement that, I was talking to him mostly because he felt like he was in a slump. And so I reached out to him to give him his 6-month life assessment. He reached back and said, can I talk to you? I feel like I'm in a slump. And literally within a couple of days, he had not only a recruiter reach out to him, but he had 2 interviews with that company. They moved him along really quickly. And then one of the questions that they asked him, he had to refer to a gentleman he worked with. And he hadn't worked with this person in over a decade. And within 30 minutes of that interview, this person reached out to him on Messenger on LinkedIn. And so it's like all these little synchronicities that were happening, you know, it's like, and I as kooky as it sounds, like throw it out to the universe. You don't know, like that law of attraction, that power of attraction, what that does. And I think keeping that in, you know, keeping that to our advantage is really helpful. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was just, you know, seeking a role, like things you should learn about seeking a role or and the advancement of your career and how that things. So finding a job is in itself a full-time job in reality, right? So you really do need to make time to find yourself a job if that's what you're looking for. And be kind to yourself while you're doing it. You know, remember that you can do what you can do. And if you need to take a break from it, go ahead and take a break from it. Remote opportunities are growing by the day, you know, so don't forget to look for that stuff that will help you do that work-life balance. But also remember that remote opportunities are easily 24/7 if you let them be. So make sure that you're, you know, keeping that white space on your calendar and that you're keeping care of yourself. Searching without or with a current role. I had heard questions on that recently, and I think now people are a lot more lenient on that, especially knowing what the unemployment rate was over the last year. So I think if you're currently searching without a role, it really isn't a disadvantage to you right now. So I would go ahead and encourage you to not to make sure you're not looking at that as a disadvantage. And the only person that can tell you that you can't do something is you. Right. My mom, again, is that, you know, she had asked me what I was doing with my booth degree a few years ago. Right. And then more recently, like I said, I wanted to open up a resort. So I said, oh, maybe I'll go, you know, manage a resort or manage, you know, something. And she's like, who's going to hire you to be a manager? I thought, well, who was going to hire me to be an HR director 10 years ago? Right. And I thought the only person who can tell me I can't do it is me. And that's something I definitely live by. And then just a couple last things, like when you're reaching out to companies, if you don't hear from a company, follow up with them. You know, there's no reason that you can't reach out and say, I really enjoyed our conversation. You know, I have you on my radar as a company. I know I didn't fit this role, but if you think I fit a role coming up, I would love to be considered for it. That's unique. People don't do that. So go ahead and do that. And you put that in your wheelhouse and tools that you can use. And then the last thing I want to say is if a company passes you up, just remember it's because the job you were meant to have is waiting for you. So don't look at that as a negative thing either. So from a holistic standpoint, just wanted to cover everything that I covered. If you have any questions, I'm leaving about 10 minutes for questions. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
And if you want to put the questions into the chat, I can try to aggregate if there are some common themes as well.
And I think, Nima, I can start with the questions that were pre-submitted. There was a question about returning to work part-time, and I didn't get from the questioner if they already had a job or if they're looking to get back into the workforce. And I'll go ahead and answer that question while we're waiting for other people to ask any. So you have to assume all employers assume that employees are selfish, right? Like we want what we want, and it's true, right? We want to be able to, if I want to go back to work part-time and work 3, 8-hour days or 3 10-hour days or, 4 10-hour days and take Fridays off, I'm doing it for my best interest, right? And I have to remember that. So what you need to do is you need to figure out a way to approach your employer with, and you can even say it outright, this is kind of a selfish ask, but, is there a way I can work, flexible hours? And what you need to do is obviously do your research and do your homework and investigate what value you add and how your position would be able to do that. Everything is negotiable. Every single thing is negotiable, and know the value that you bring, and you can be able to negotiate whatever situation you're looking to have. So that would be my answer to that question, is just know the value you bring and then be able to negotiate what you'd like to have in that. Are there any
Any other
questions that have come
questions
through?
for Sue? Nothing yet. So if anyone has a question, just let me know.
Okay, and then there was one other question about a board position. So, you know, somebody had asked about preparing themselves to get on a board in the next 2 to 4 years. And what I would say to that again is go ahead and network. Like, we have a phenomenal network of people. If you are targeting companies, find out if there's somebody in your network that is sitting on that board already, and find out what skills and experience you need to sit on that board. Again, you know, like, there's a lot of transferable and transitional skills that people can bring, even if you don't have that industry experience. You have experience that a board can use. And a lot of times, especially now through diversity and inclusion campaigns, you know, people are bringing people on that don't have that industry experience, so they can get that broader, holistic approach to solving problems within their organizations.
And then I do have questions. I've asked if people would like to ask anonymously, that they send them to me directly. So
Okay.
I do have one. One is that right now I struggle with the balance of, with COVID, knowing that my family needs me most right now, but feeling professionally that I'm passing up opportunities that might not be there when COVID starts to resolve itself.
Okay, so are they talking about a timing perspective?
Yeah, I think what they're trying to get at, if I read this correctly, is that while right now, due to COVID, they have to focus more on their family, but they're stressing out about the fact that they feel like they should be doing more professionally, and that their fear is that as everyone starts to come out of COVID and the family needs less of them, that they will have missed some opportunities that others were able to take and
Capitalize on. Yeah, and I think that goes back to remembering, you know, the timing of things, and that, you know, there is this, and I have to believe, right? I have to believe that I am one small piece in a much bigger wheel, right? And that things that you know, and I think that was the last point that I had made, was that if you are passed up for something, or if the timing didn't work out, it's just, there's something better out there for you, right? There's a greater fit for you. And Nima and I had actually had this conversation a while ago about, you know, surpassing opportunities that are happening in this time. And Nima, if you want to share your revelation over it, that'd be fantastic. I think that might answer the question, right?
Yeah, so I did struggle with this myself. So it's nice to hear someone else is also thinking the same things, and it wasn't just me being crazy. But I did struggle with the same thing, and I walked through this process in a little bit more in depth with her in some of her other activities. And what I found is that one thing was, in the wheel conversation, I found that there were some things I could do, even though I was focusing on my family, to bump up some of the others a little bit higher that seemed a little bit too close to the center, rather easily, just because I never really thought about it that way. But for me, what came out of this was a huge sense of permission to be the mom and the family person right now, knowing that my kids are at an age where they need me more. But as Sue coached me so eloquently by saying, there will be a time where they will need you less. So it's not an indefinite thing. So I love what you said about that wheel was doing it now, doing it in 6 months, or even a year from now, to see how things change. And even doing the bucket list, I think, is really helpful to do again as things start to shift in your life. So for me, it really just alleviated a lot of the anxiety of feeling like I had to do it all, and realizing that there's a time and place for it all. And if the opportunities are true opportunities, they'll still be there. I just need to find them when I truly can focus on following through with them. So that was great.
Excellent. I love that. Did that answer the question? They want to come back and see if there's any follow-up.
If there's a follow-up, go ahead and send it to me and I can ask the follow-up. Any other questions from the group?
And my contact information is on this screen. You can also find me on LinkedIn and Facebook. I didn't put the Facebook stuff, but there's my direct email address, my LinkedIn. And then I did actually recently create a company page. So if people want to follow my company page, I would appreciate it. You know, if you want to ask me a question directly and reach out to me directly, I'm more than happy to have a conversation.
And remember, you can also reach out to Sue after the session if you have any questions directly. While we're seeing if anyone does have questions, I do want to thank you all for coming and hopefully going through these exercises, finding some insight of your own. This is one of those sessions where it can be enlightening, but it can be a little scary at the same time to go through it because it is hard to make. I did struggle through the bracket exercise. It was really hard to not raise things that I wanted to raise when they were in competition with something else. But I love that you kept telling us too that you were not deselecting it. It was just a priority situation. So that was tough for me, but this is really great. I think this brings a different aspect to career advancement, making sure that, as you said, Sue, you don't leave yourself at the door when you go to work. You bring your whole self. And
Right.
therefore, you need to bring your holistic approach.
Yeah.
So
and we also did in 40 minutes what most people would walk through in a few days with me, right? Like I'd give you time to think about this, a lot more time to think about how you want to break things down and which is more important. You know, we did a very, very truncated version of things I walk my clients through.
And then, so I did have another anonymous one.
Okay.
This participant said that they noticed their bucket list was skewed towards what she was excited in and wants to know if that's common, almost like blocking what she struggles with and just going with what she feels more confident with.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's your now, right? Like you had just made a comment, you know, if you did your bucket list a year from now, how would that change? You know, and so, and where you want to spend your time, like they say, if you find a job you love doing, it's like you'll never work a day in your life, right? So actually going in and doing things that you're excited about is where you want to be spending your time. You know, you don't want to feel like you're waking up and breaking your back to do things that, you know, I just don't like this, right? And I think that's where definitely, if that's where your passion lies, then you should be making, you know, baby steps or even huge giant leaps towards either finding a position in that or not. I think I'm working with a woman right now who she, you know, wants to get into sales because there's money in it. You know, she's a little bit younger. There's money in sales. She'd love to do medical device sales, but she's also trying to develop this app. And I said, well, why don't you try to find a sales job with around apps and, you know, more AI and those types of things. She's like, and, you know, and so she's, you know, on the fence about, okay, do you make the money or do you like go towards your passion? Right. And I think that's where a lot of us struggle. I know I came out of my undergrad loving math and loving, you know, all that stuff. And I asked my mom, I said, you know, I think I want to be a teacher. And my mom's response was, well, do you want to make money or do you want to have your summers off? And I said, well, if I make enough money, I can have my summers off, right? So I went down the path of becoming an accountant and a finance person, only to find out 10 or 15 years into that I wanted to be around people, you know, and my heart was calling towards that people, you know, teaching. I just didn't figure it out for 10 years. You know, so it's where that helps like kind of underlie your passions, and that's where you want to be spending your time.
Fantastic. So we are just about coming up to the hour, and before I lose everyone, Sue, first, I want to thank you so much for bringing this to us. I know that you take your clients through some of these exercises, so it's very fortunate for us to have a little bit of this, a little snippet of it for free. So we appreciate that. But I want to make sure that everyone realizes that these events for the Leadership Summit are meant to be action oriented. So I hope everyone is walking out with some things that they have learned and things that they can do towards bringing a more holistic approach to their career. And as I mentioned, this is one in a number of events that we have in our CBWN Leadership Summit series. I am going to post our website in the chat room. Please do take a look. There are many events for the duration of our Leadership Summit, which goes through the end of May. See if there's any that you would like to join, and please do register. We'd love to see you there. And also keep in mind that this is one of our quarterly events. We also have, from the Leadership Summit, when we flow into the summer, we'll have Beyond Brunch. And if anyone is looking to host, on our website is a place for you to contact our event chair, Golnar, and I will put her information in the chat as well. Please do reach out to her if you would like to chair an event or a brunch for the summer. We're always looking to connect our women, and as you know, we specifically are about women and women empowering women. So the more we can get us to give to each other and receive from each other, the more we deliver on our mission. And it is with your participation in these events that we can bring that vision of the Chicago Booth Women's Network to life. It is all about women empowering women for professional success. So with that, again, thank you all for attending. Thank you, Sue, for sharing so much of your life with us.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody.